In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live on Lunenburg Access. We'll start right out.
It's not broadcast live.
It's not broadcast live, just being recorded. I don't know what's going on. There's a camera in the corner. Any appointments? Any appointments, Bob?
No.
Any announcements, anybody? I don't have any announcements. Anybody else have any announcements?
Do you want me to do a roll call?
Oh, sure. We can do a roll call.
Okay.
Yeah. Joe, chairman here.
Carl Luck, present. Troy Daniels, present.
Joan Keys here.
John Reynolds here.
Announcements. I don't have anything. Unless somebody else does. Public comment?
Yes, I have one. David Passios, 56 Whiting Street. A couple of days ago, I watched your last meeting in entirety on YouTube, and I was quite disappointed that this board took the position on the sewer connection to the Passios School with the possible use of the kitchen as a chargeable connection. That building is going to be in municipal, for the time being anyway, is a municipal building. Even take it one step further, you moved town offices into that building, and 99.9% of your flow is going to be from town offices. I can't see how you can just assess that connection now as a commercial connection. And I'm assuming that there's only one connection to the sewer system out of the Passios building, but I would like to be corrected if I'm wrong.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, since I was there.
Yeah, good. I unfortunately wasn't there, but you bring up good points.
Comes out to the FLAC. I believe it comes out to the FLAC side.
Is it just one?
Just
one?
To be clear, maybe we weren't clear enough at that night, but this has nothing to do with the connection of the building. This strictly has to do with the grease trap in the kitchen.
Now, what was the $150 a year fee that was discussed?
That's for a grease trap. We have a grease trap regulation, and for commercial applications.
Okay, but that's a municipal building, and you waive that fee for all of the municipal buildings. That's still a municipal building. That's my argument. I mean, I made comments at the meeting Monday morning also in Town Hall with small businesses that these are the little things that we keep throwing at these fledgling businesses trying to come into town, and incubators, you know, $150 here, $150 there, and nobody wants to deal with it. That's why they don't want to come to town. That's just my public comment, my personal feelings. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Yes, I have a public comment. After many of our meetings, the following day emails are sent to the DPW director and our vendor with questions, directives, and reprimands by the vice chair of the Sewer Commission. Our last October meeting was no different. October 31st, 2017, two emails dated 10/19 and 10/25 were forwarded to the Commission from the DPW director. Again, questions and directives by the vice chair that were not authorized or voted on by the Commission. November 1st, 2017, Weston and Sampson project update. A reprimand was sent to the DPW director regarding timely responses, questions and directives that were not authorized and voted on by the Commission. What was requested by the Commission and acknowledged in the Vice Chair's email dated November 1st was that the Vice Chair was compiling questions and issues to be considered by the Commission for Task 2 of the Weston and Sampson proposal for tonight's meeting. Much of the information or questions presented to the Commission are directives regarding the scope of work or direct on day-to-day tasks. At one point, our vendor would be asked to evaluate the work of a competitor, an inherent conflict of interest. Nothing contained in the questions would authorize a single member to contact our vendor or DPW director without input and authorization of the full Commission. Some of the questions are opinion-driven and may or may not be shared by the Commission. Example, thought process, suggested approach, suggested questions. Since the September 2017 Fall I&I Removal Program proposal and agreement was forwarded to the Commission, the following emails have been sent. 10/10/17, Pat Cotton of Weston Sampson update. 10/12, townwide wastewater management or wastewater pump station drawdown testing. 10/19, manhole work scope of services RFP email from DPW director. 10/22, email from Vice Chair, Pat responded. 10/25, manhole work scope of services RFP email from DPW director. 10:26, email from Vice Chair, Pat responded. 10:27, email from Vice Chair, Pat sought authorization. 10:31, DPW Director forwarded most recent update from Weston and Sampson regarding wastewater, I&I, DEP, I&I. November 1st, 2017, DPW Director informed the Commission that the Vice Chair had contacted the vendor again outside the scope of the Commission's responsibility. Additionally, the Vice Chair had escalated issues to the vendor's supervisor, threatening the relationship by and between the vendor and the town. Weston and Sampson had expressed their willingness to quit the town of Lunenburg over these emails. A reminder, one of our vendors has already been compromised as a result of similar communication, and appearance of impropriety could result in the loss of 2 vendors in the future. As a result of this activity, a special meeting was called. Topics for an agenda were suggested and forwarded to Town Council. Town Council responded stating that a policy would be redundant, as a single member of the Commission representing the Commission was outside the law and provided significant case law. Additionally, Council informed the Commission that the Town Charter gives powers of day-to-day operation care and management to the Town Manager, and any issues with Town employees should be taken up by the full Commission and forwarded to the Town Manager. The Commission is not the DPW Director or the Sewer Business Manager Supervisor. Responses and emails related to the Town Council's responses. 11/7/17, 7:59 a.m., the Business Manager forwarded Council's responses to all members of the Commission. 11/7/11:03 a.m., clarification was requested by the Chair. 11:11 a.m., Business Manager forwarded agenda topics. 11:16 a.m., another request from the Chair. 12 o'clock p.m., a response. 12:52 p.m., another response from the Chair on 11:9. 11:10/17, 2:43 p.m., a response to the Chair's public records request from Town Council. Requests and responses need a reasonable amount of time for a response. The aforementioned does not represent a reasonable request of any member of the Commission. It does illustrate the level of impatience the Commission has for each other and vendors. I take issue with being represented in impatient requests for information, reprimands of employees and vendors, asking for information or tasks that are outside the scope of work or of a vendor, and any attempt to direct the work of day-to-day operations. Moving forward, it is clear that communication from individual member is outside the law, problematic, and disrespectful of the Town Manager and fellow Commissioners. The Sewer Commission must act as a board, and communication to the Town Manager, DPW, and vendors should be the voice of the Commission as discussed, deliberated, and voted on by the Commission.
I'd like to say that I agree with many of the things that Troy has pointed out. And I would like to add to that, at the end of the last several meetings, I have been surprised to find that one member of the Commission has taken it upon themselves to compose a summary of the meeting and then send it out to the DPW or the business manager or the rest of the committee when the Commission has not had a chance to look at those summaries, have input as to whether they agree with the complete nature of the summaries, as we do with the minutes. In the minutes, we vote on whether or not we agree. We have an opportunity to edit them. I think if the Commission wants to have a member write a summary and submit it to anyone, we should have an opportunity to all look at it and all reflect on it, and no one member should take that upon themselves without being directed by the Commission to do so. John?
I think those are all valid.
Okay. Any other public comment from anybody? Of course.
I won't comment on any of the prior comments, because they are misleading at best.
I'm sorry.
I would request that this document be included in the records of the meeting. Regarding the various communications-related items on tonight's agenda, I want to make it clear that I would support open and constructive discussion on how we might better communicate and share information going forward. I also welcome the opportunity to set the record straight on several personal attacks on my integrity and character, along with associated insinuations and fabrications. At the request of one Commission member, whose guidance I took, I have refrained from responding to the many unjustified accusations of people. This strategy has not seemed to reduce these attempts to discredit me and my reputation, and may have actually increased them. As a result, I have had to internally deal with the stress of feeling that these accusations are assumed correct by many. If it is the pleasure of the Commission, I would welcome a comprehensive review of recent documented communications, their appropriateness, and an opportunity to set the record straight. For our discussion, we should all commit to proper meeting etiquette, and especially the rule that personal remarks in debate are out of order. To quote Robert's Rules in plain English, the presiding officer must rule all personal remarks out of order. Debate must be directed to motions and not motives, principles, and not personalities. I would also hope and request that in these discussions and any subsequent policies that the Commission chooses to adopt, that they address communications of all forms and involved parties. Although it is not a good sign that such policies must be documented, given the current atmosphere, I would probably support such policies as long as they are all inclusive and provide clearer guidance to all. At the onset, I would like to acknowledge that I have recently been in direct contact with contractors to seek information without the express knowledge of or consent of the Commission. This practice has been the protocol for my entire tenure on the Sewer Commission for the past 11 years. I believe it has provided valuable information to the Commission, and to the best of my knowledge, has had no significant negative consequences. For the record, the information requests I have made to Weston Sampson were specifically related to their final report regarding the dish installation contract. The documented communications confirm I was only seeking to reconcile conflicts in data between what was between that completed contract and another closed contract and report from Wright Pierce. All this for the purpose of evaluating an outstanding proposal, Task 2, and the I&I plan in general. No open contracts were discussed and no direction was given. I acknowledge that in the current atmosphere this may not be a good practice and will not do so again without the knowledge and consent of the Commission and/or business manager, with or without an explicit communications policy.
May I ask a question there?
I appreciate finishing.
Okay.
I would, for the record, expect that any policy regarding communications and requests for information include reasonable expectations on responsiveness. On the most recent questions to and response from Council regarding reprimanding of any town employee, including commissioners or contractors, I fully agree with this input and have always practiced these principles. It is not the place of any commission member or town employee to reprimand anyone who does not report to or been appointed by them. If this is to be discussed, I have many documented examples of my being reprimanded by fellow commissioners as well as town employees. My most sincere desired outcome for these discussions is that these distractions will subside, allowing the Commission and the DPW to once again focus on getting our jobs done. That is, addressing the serious issues before us, including I&I reduction, in a timely and cost-effective way.
I just had a question. I like a lot of what you said, Carl, and I think it's good. But at one point you said you will not contract contractors again without the Commission and/or business manager's knowledge. It's my position as a member of the Sewer Commission that you should not be contacting consultants of any kind without the Commission's knowledge. That you should have respect for the Commission as a whole, and we should talk about it. You have many good points and many good insights. You should bring those to a meeting and talk about it and request that the Commission vote to have you go talk to the vendor. And then the Commission would be behind you. I don't think just having the business manager's approval is sufficient, at least from my perspective as a Commissioner. As a Commissioner, I would want you to not contact anymore outside of the meetings, unless maybe we say after a discussion, Carl, could you please go contact so-and-so, we need you to be our point person on this, which could happen. So
Just to clarify, my comment was meant to be because the business manager is the official contact person. So even if the Commission tells any of us, so it's just,
I just wanted to clarify, you wouldn't just tell them.
that they should contact the supplier it still has to go through.
I understand. That's why I was
The
asking for
business manager.
clarification on it.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't just talk to Barbara and then go to a contractor? With you, the whole commission would know. And I would also appreciate it very much if at the end of a meeting, if you felt a summary was needed to go to someone the next day, if you would say to all of us in the commission, I feel a summary is needed tomorrow to go to Barbara on this topic, or to go anywhere, to Jack, to wherever you think it should go, that you would talk to the commission as a whole and say, I would be happy to volunteer to write this summary, send it out as an email for your review. We can't discuss it on email, but we could email you back, okay, or please hold off till we have a chance to talk about it. And you wouldn't take it upon yourself to just decide to do those things without the commission knowing.
Mr. Chairman, I think we've gone well beyond public comment and things that may or may not be discussed later, and
Yeah, we're gonna
be
go right into it.
discussed and debated.
So the first item is communication policy discussion, so there's a bullet point, communications between individual commission members, DPW contractors, and consultants, and the first line item is communication policy discussion, which is kind of what we're talking about right now, so let's get into it right away. As far as I know right now, the communication policy really isn't, laid out for us on how to do things, so I imagine, Troy, you kind of put this agenda together. I imagine this is so we can kind of nail something down, right? That's why...
These were in anticipation of the special meeting. They were suggested topics for discussion. After sending these topics for discussion to the town councils indicated that policy is redundant for what we're talking about because it's illegal for us to act on our own. It's illegal for us to go out and there's plenty of case law out there already that substantiates the claim that we shouldn't be going on our own and contacting vendors, that we act as a board or a commission together, and that the communication should be driven by a vote or driven by a consensus.
Anybody clear, if I have any questions on everything Troy said and what council said earlier in the week about how to communicate with people, contractors, DPW, consultants? Is everyone pretty clear that we can't go on and be rogue and talk to people or anything like that? None of
That
us.
we should discuss it as a
We
group.
discuss it as a group?
And then if the group decides, Joe, we want you to go talk to whoever, Heather, Jack, we're going to do it as a group. No one's going to go off on their own
Right.
making contacts.
Yep. So everyone's clear.
Given that current atmosphere, because communications, and maybe there are other communication things down here, if we're focusing right now on contractors, is that the focus of the current discussion of communication?
No, it's just in general.
In general. So communication, because I thought I heard in communication with DPW director.
You did.
So are we saying that before even the chair can go communicate with the DPW director, that the entire commission has to authorize that discussion? I just want to be clear, because...
I wouldn't say authorize.
More than one.
I mean, there should at least be discussions of it. It's not... I guess the DPW director is a little different, because,
According to
Anyone
what
else
I
can come in and talk
received
to
back
Jack,
from Adam, we are not supposed to be going off on our own. Should be based on conclusions that are reached at a meeting, that are based on a consensus or a majority vote. That is clearly what he wrote in his reply to me. I believe you saw it, Heather. Maybe I'm interpreting it differently than you. Is your interpretation the same as mine? It is. That's what I thought.
All right, so if council's saying that, and that's how black and white it is, then yes, that's what we're saying.
So that's why I want to be real clear, because I don't want to go through this again. We're being so distracted. We've got to get back to work, so it'd be nice to tie this down, not only for us, but the next commissioners or whoever, because these are not intuitive things. So are we saying DPW is now included, director? Is the business manager included?
Our business manager?
According to the email I got from Adam, we can go through the business manager after we've had a discussion at a meeting if it is any kind of policy that the sewer commission is working on. For instance, if you wanted to talk about Task 2 of the I&I, that is up for grabs on the table. We are still working on that. We are still discussing it. Any communication should be based on what happens at a meeting. If you want to say to Barb, I don't think I can be at the meeting, is there still going to be a quorum without me? Or, Barb, can you get me a copy of the minutes from such and such a meeting? I can't find mine. I believe those kinds of communications, please correct me if I'm wrong, are allowed. Those are, there's a word for those, something, straight of somethings. Those are allowed. I mean, I called Barb and I asked her, did you get anything on this topic? Because she wasn't going to be at the meeting. I just want to know, did it arrive? That's okay. But not discussion of sewer policy without the approval of the commission.
So I agree with what you said. I think requesting information from Barb is fine.
Administrative information, not...
Whatever, a
yeah.
document, requesting a document is fine. Is that...
I'm requesting a document.
Requesting a document. So I however, would point out that one of the emails that is causing some of this trouble that was referenced in a member's thing of the 1031 was accusing me of requesting a document from Barb, and that was not appropriate. And that's one of the two November 31st emails.
Okay, but wait, can
hold on. That's fine. We're talking here on out. Now we kind of get clarity on here on out. So the past, we know stuff happened in the past, and we talked about it. It was brought up in public comment. Here on out, we're making it clear. That's how it's going to go going forward. So so whether or not it was right or wrong on the 31st, asking Bob for documents and things like that is okay.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, the town manager is here, and she's indicated that she has to leave in 10 minutes.
Right.
I don't know if she has anything that she wants to... If there's anything that she wants...
Yes.
Can we defer to her time consideration, or...
Yeah, give her the...
I would be happy to do that.
I would be
Sure.
happy to do that.
Okay. The only thing I would comment on so far in the discussion is that I believe a policy is in fact could be helpful. What town council's words were are, it's not necessary. However, nothing prevents adoption of policy. I think that makes it more concrete in roles and responsibilities of the sewer commission, the business manager, the town manager, and DPW director.
Would you be willing to participate in a meeting to clarify those?
Yes, and draft a policy.
Jack, would you be willing to participate in a meeting to clarify and draft those?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, yes. Joe?
I'm open for any improvements.
Carl?
Yeah, I said in my
Barb?
statement that I think unfortunately we need one.
So, but everyone seems to be in agreement that they would be willing to participate in such a meeting. And this problem is a long-standing, ongoing problem for which we have dedicated several past meetings. We have had meetings to discuss this in my year and a half on the sewer commission. I went back and looked at all the different minutes from the meetings. Barb helped me locate them. And we have had specific meetings to discuss this, and we have discussed it in portions of several meetings with some of the present members and some of the members that have resigned. Mr. Sear also was a member when we discussed this once before. So I think I would agree with Heather that there's nothing preventing a policy, and a policy might be good given the long-standing issues we've had.
And for future commission members as well.
Yes.
The only other comment I'd say is I think everyone here has the same goal, is to do what you're charged with in the charter and plan for the sewer and the residents of the town. So I think keeping that in mind.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think we all do have the same goal, so once we get through this stuff, we can work on that goal. Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess I just would like to offer, based on what town council has sent us, that's somewhat limited as to correct communication. And I think coming up with some kind of, I hate policies to help guide us through it
Guidelines.
would probably be the best thing to do.
I think we're pretty clear. We'll set something up with Heather, I think. I'm trying to think. think we have to get her availability. Maybe you can get a list of dates that would work for Heather, Bob, and kind of shoot it out to everybody, and we can all kind of discuss it, whether it's during a meeting or something like that.
I like that idea.
Then we can
Probably
kind of-
won't be during a meeting because
I would assume
it's mostly meeting with the phone, right?
Yeah.
We would have to have a workshop probably.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so if we can figure it out, probably evenings probably better for, for me, I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but evenings might be easier. But let's just get a list of availability for her, and then we can all kind of talk again. Okay. Communication specifically with Weston and Sampson. So we kind of just went over communications in general. We lumped contractors, consultants into that discussion. I don't know if we need to continue talking about specifically with Weston and Sampson. I think it's pretty clear that if we want to talk Weston and Sampson on our own, we kind of have to go through all of us. We talk about what that discussion would be, and go through Bob for that discussion to Weston and Sampson.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You asked politely. You go first.
The only question that I would have is the concerns about their willingness to quit the town of Lunenburg. I want to get a better feel for the level of the concern that we should have as a commission, and how real of a threat this is, and are we able to fix this relationship? Is this something that we need to sort of anticipate not being fixed and moving forward?
I personally am not concerned with them leaving the town of Lunenburg. I did not go out and talk to Steve with everything going on. I didn't think it was a good idea. And yeah, I'm going to.
Okay.
I know Jack did speak with Steve, I believe, over at Weston Sampson. I did speak with Jack briefly as well about it. And do you have any real concern that they're going to walk away?
I'll keep it short. I'm not concerned at this point. I didn't talk to Steve. Pat asked me not to talk to Steve.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I misspoke.
And so I did talk to Pat as recently as this afternoon. I told him, as an answer to his question, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? I said it was an internal issue that I will call you tomorrow. I'm optimistic that we'll make some progress tonight. So I'm not going to editorialize that. That was the conversation.
Okay. So
Thank you.
as of right now, it sounds like there's no real concern that they're going to walk away, as long as we kind of clear it up if we're doing it now.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Since I'm the one who is it's being implied that I've created that problem, I would like to dig a little bit deeper into to where this rumor comes from, because I did talk to, as I confessed, I did talk to the manager, not to the engineer, but to the manager, on actually the morning of the day that the request for a special meeting came out, with the accusations that I had put us into a position that the supplier was going to walk away. And the manager, Steve Pedersen, it couldn't have been a more congenial conversation. There were no problems there. I confirmed with Steve that, because I was concerned that Pat was being put in this political situation, that Pat was taking this personally. Steve confirmed and reassured me that Pat understood that this was a political situation. He took no offense and took no objection to it. So I think somebody owes the story behind. Where did this accusation come from that the supplier was going to walk away? Who talked to who that the supplier was going to walk away? And what was the communication chain that took that bit of false information, in my opinion, until somebody can correct me, and managed to get two of the members of this commission to buy into that and to request a special meeting because they thought the supplier was going to walk away.
Wait a minute, I'm one of those two, and I did not buy into it. My email said that if these allegations are true, it is serious, and if the allegations are not true, it is equally serious. That is what my email said.
Yeah, and
So I felt that, not that I bought into it, I resent that comment, but that I thought but I think we have settled this. I think that the problem came, Carl, from you going on your own
Mr. Chairman, if we could stick to the question, because the question was, and the reason I said buy in, and there was a little bit of a lead, and the email that you referred to
I think the
absolutely
question is
100%, I
inaccurate
absolutely
in some of its
100% agree with,
assumptions.
and, you know, if I was in a responding mode, I was going to respond. I couldn't agree more with everything you said. That email was after the meeting was called.
But that's the
The
reason
meeting-
I wanted to call the meeting.
But you were, who was the second person who called that meeting? Back on November
Because if
3rd,
the
on November 3rd,
whatever the date was.
okay, before that email, well before the email.
And then I was asked why, and that is why.
Okay.
If the allegations were true, it was serious, and equally serious if the allegations were false.
Okay, so my question is,
And,
what's the
let me
basis
finish,
of all this?
Let me finish. And I had concern that any member of the sewer commission was going off on their own
I agree.
to contact anyone that we're working with, that it should be a group effort all along. So,
So where did this rumor come from that the supplier was going to walk away?
I caution walking down this.
I agree.
But I've been
That's true.
accused of something.
No,
I've been
I agree. You
accused
have been
of
accused.
creating a situation that didn't exist.
But it sounds to me like, I understand where you're coming from, trust me. But communication, specifically Weston and Sampson, we talked about it. Weston and Sampson's not going to walk away. We confirmed that. You had a nice talk with Steve. You also confirmed that. Where it came from, how it came to be, all these other things. I think if we start going down that hole, it's just gonna make this. It's not gonna help anything here.
Mr.
It's
Chairman?
gonna make it worse.
And anyway, if an individual member of the commission had not contacted a consultant
It's
on their own, we never would have this
It's
problem.
irrelevant at this point, because it happens, whatever, and now we're talking about how to improve that. Carl, I hate to say, let's not do it, because I know you want answers and things like that.
I'm willing, I appreciate that, Joe, and believe me, nobody in this room knows better the position that you're in that chair. So I will not push it, but I will push it again when we have our meeting on communications, because communications is exactly the issue here. How did this communication occur that would create this, little, excitement? So I will defer it. I defer to your decision, and we'll defer that discussion.
I have problems with the way things are being characterized and the way the questions are being phrased, and I guess I'm willing to leave it, but I at the same time want to state for the record that I don't agree with the way they're being characterized. I don't think it's little.
That's fair. All right, we're gonna move on.
May I interject?
Oh, yeah, you
back?
have something, yes.
Yeah, I do. Mr. Chairman, may I interject? I just want to state that I'm uncomfortable with it returning back to the way it has been, where the commission wants me to contact the consultant, and my direct supervisor does not.
You can go through Jack. You want to go through Jack? Go ahead. If the commission says, hey, Barb, do this, and you're being told by Jack that Jack didn't
Or Jack,
filter it through,
Well,
that's fine. I mean,
my understanding from council, Mr. Chairman, was that it's the town manager who makes the designations and who makes the call on those communications, not...
right,
So-
right, through her directives, or something was how the...
Right.
So-
I just want to make
Our
sure that
charter
that's
says we're
clear.
supposed to go.
That's
Now,
fine.
our charter says we're supposed to be communicating with the town manager, and then the town manager communicates with Jack, and the town manager communicates with Barb. Really, that's what our charter says, and Carl was the one who pointed that out to me, that our charter does not say go to the DPW. And that is what the attorney was also saying,
But we're
that
not talking
we're...
about going to the DPW, we're talking about going to Barb and then Barb.
That's the DPW. If you read the thing that I got back from the attorney, we're really supposed to be going through appropriate channels. Now, I think the meeting we have on communications, Heather may indeed delegate that authority to Jack or Barbara. I think that may happen. I am almost convinced, 100% sure, would bet on it, that she will be delegating some of that to the DPW. But whenever Barb feels conflicted, I think Barb should have the right to say, I'm conflicted on this, I'm going to defer it to Jack, and then Jack can talk to Heather or the sewer commission or whatever needs to be done. But Barbara should not be put in the middle.
putting $500 million. That's all Bob to do what she feels right to do.
No, and that's good. I just
I don't want
wanted that,
$500
make...
Okay, this is going to be discussed further when we get
Right.
together.
Yes, it will.
So,
All right. Potential impacts to the rate users, town, and commission of losing vendors. The impacts, I know it's an agenda item, we can talk about it. What is the potential impact of losing vendors? I personally don't know what the impact is. Where I work, we lose vendors, we find new vendors. I can't imagine it's, I mean, obviously that's kind of an easy statement to just throw out there, but we don't want to lose vendors. Good vendors. We have good vendors, we want to keep good vendors. Bad vendors, whatever. But these are good vendors, so we don't want to lose them. Obviously, the impact can be big to the rate users. It can be big to the town. It can be to the commission. If you lose a good vendor and you find another vendor and the rates are different, obviously it affects the rate users in a negative way.
Plus, there's backup time for getting up to speed.
Yep, there's all sorts of things.
Right.
To
I
the
mean,
town, it's the same thing, and for the commission, it's the same thing. So it's not going to be a positive thing.
I think the vendors that we have been using in the past are good, they're reliable, they know our history. And I think any one vendor we lose just potentially drives the cost of hiring
You very well could.
vendor.
But
Just
none of us
narrows
can-
the pool. but-
None of us can see the future, so I can't
No.
really say what the impact is
No.
going to be to the rate users. I mean, on the other side of the coin, not that it would probably happen, you could lose a vendor and then find a new vendor and rates could go down. Who knows? But we're not trying to lose vendors, we're trying to keep good vendors. So that's kind of the goal. That's why we're doing the communication thing, that's why we're talking about it. Unless other people have opinions on impact, we got to move on. Potential appearance of impropriety regarding positioning vendors. I think this all kind of ties in.
This, Mr. Chairman, was one of the issues that council advised to be careful.
Right, I saw that.
That this is a conflict of interest. We had issues in the past where we weren't able to use a vendor because of communications, and even the appearance of trying to position vendors so that we use one over another would have and could have an impact on users, and it could have an impact on the cost to the users. It could also have an impact on whether or not we're able to use those vendors in the future. So we have and one of the words in there is appearance. So we have to be careful about that appearance. It doesn't necessarily mean that we are, but if we have even the appearance of it, then it's going to cause a problem in the future.
But I, again, would like to say that I think that the commission has now decided to function and communicate as a group. I think we will eliminate a lot of these issues that are on this agenda if we all communicate together, and the only communications that go forward are ones that were approved by a majority of the commission.
I agree. Anybody else? Okay. Protocol for commissioners addressing staff, departments, employees, and vendors.
Seems like that'll be discussed.
Yeah,
At the
that's what
workshop.
I was going to say the same thing. We're going to have the workshop, and we can talk about it, of course. It's on the agenda if anyone wants to kind of...
I think we've all decided we're going to have this workshop, and that's where we should take it up.
Okay. I agree.
I guess the only concern that I would have is what happens in the meantime between now and that workshop.
So...
Go ahead.
No, I don't want to interrupt you if you have more. Go ahead. So we talked about it at the beginning. I'll say it again, we're very clear. No one's to go out and talk to anybody unless we all agree on it. And that's until this workshop comes, that's how we're going to have to go. Who knows what happens to the workshop? Well, hopefully it's a nice positive thing and we have a good policy. But as of right now, no one's going out and talking to anybody about any sewer commission things without the whole commission, or at least the majority of the commission being on board with it. Does that address your concern?
It does, and I'm going to apologize in advance for the redundancy of the last.
It's okay. Impact issues and consequences of an individual commissioner communications. Again, I mean, we know what the impact could be. We know what the issues can be. Consequences, obviously, it's probably a long list of consequences that we can sit here all night and talk about. But with the new policy going to be made, I don't think it's going to be a problem with individual commissioner communications with anybody. So I think that unless someone else has a different concern, I don't think it's going to be a problem going forward. Okay. Town attorney office hours.
This was tabled from the
It was.
October 10th meeting, when we went to discuss it.
If I remember correctly, you were at the meeting when this originally got put on the agenda, Joe.
Yeah.
You said you had some concerns. I shared your concerns. We talked about how when an individual member goes and discusses a policy without the direction of the board, it's uncomfortable for the other board members. Heather also talked to me about this, and I don't feel that I'm betraying any confidence. She said things get changed in the telling, and she would encourage the commission not to have individual people going to the attorney office hours about policy. Now, if individual people in the commission wanted to go to the attorney office hours about protocol, for instance, it would be a good thing to go and say, hey, what are the jobs of a chairman, if you wanted to do that? What are my limits? That's a different thing, but sewer commission policy, we should probably do what we've done the last time, discuss it in a meeting, vote on whether or not we want to send a letter to Adam. If we vote, a majority votes yes, we want to ask this question of Adam, then Barb sends the letter, then everyone's included.
You talk about policy, correct?
Yes, I'm talking about policy.
Okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I don't want to... With all the policy communication stuff, I think the council thing is kind of its own... Like, I wouldn't want to stifle anybody from asking any questions to legal if they have questions for legal. I mean, they're kind of there for that. That's why they have hours, so you can ask questions and get clarity. I think the problem comes when you try and bring that information to the meeting and you're either by yourself or there's a disagreement with other people. That's when you kind of have the issue. The issue isn't people going in and talking to council. I encourage anybody who wants to do that to do it. It's more, how do we get that information out that's clear? And
How are we inclusive as a commission?
so anybody can ask council questions about the commission.
Mr. Chairman, my only comment about that is that it depends on how you ask the question, it depends on the question you're asking, and it also, we also have to rely on secondhand information coming back to us.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Being interpreted by non-legal. So I have a concern with policy being decided on secondhand information that's from a non-attorney.
I understand, and I get that. And I don't know if, maybe I'm not articulating well. I don't think that policy should be, it won't be decided. If you have a question on the policy, and I encourage anyone to go ahead and ask council for that information. Like you guys' emails that came out, those were really clear and good. And
Well, those are on protocol, yeah.
right, but I mean, just in general, that's the type of stuff that's good. It gets hairy when you kind of like, if someone goes, say I go to council and I ask a question about policy and he gives me an answer, I don't think it's really right for me to come here and say, council said this, and then make that
Right.
the rule.
Right.
I can suggest, hey, I had a conversation with council. I
This
think
is my
this is my
interpretation.
interpretation of our
This is my
discussion.
interpretation.
I suggest if you don't agree with it, you should
Right.
also talk to council.
No, we should write a letter. If the commission is
or talk
group,
about it.
it has a
You can send a
majority,
letter, something like
send a
that.
letter.
That's where we have the problem.
Or request a written
Or
response.
request
Right,
a written response.
request, so
Exactly.
that's a council.
And that's actually a good point, Troy. If you guys are in the meetings and you have council and you come up with a policy discussion or something like that, at that meeting you should request, hey, send that over to me so I have that in writing so we know, so I can show the commission what we talked about. It's not just me
Well,
saying
but I go back to what Troy said then. I would like the person who went to the council hours can come back and discuss it with the sewer commission at large. But I think if the sewer commission decides to get an opinion, it shouldn't be because somebody brought back a paper. I think because, as Troy said, the questions change the answer. I think we should discuss it as a group, and if the majority of the commission wants to get a council opinion, we should send a question that we vote on. The wording of the question is voted on, we send it to council, he sends us back.
I'm okay with that too. I just don't want to stifle anyone from going to council with questions. You can go to council with questions. That's what he's there for. Sorry.
I 100% agree with you. I mean, that open office hours is there for a very good reason, and I think it should be used, and nobody should be barred from going and talking to council. I think anyone that goes to talk to council and tries to come back here and use that is at their own peril, and, you know, and rightfully should be only treated like that's their opinion, not council's opinion. And you're right, we can get a written opinion from council by simply asking. So I don't think there should be any limits put on that. It's in the debate of, well, yeah, that's what you said, council, but I can just count that input when I make my vote. But what I'm hearing, taking the next step, is office hours, I think, should be open to everyone.
Yeah, no, they are.
I think we kind of agree with that. But I think we need to understand what is our policy regarding going to council outside of open meeting, outside of the office hours, because that is a completely different situation.
It is a different situation. That's a good point.
And that's happened twice this week.
Honestly, people went to Heather first, though.
I asked,
Oh, yeah.
yes, I asked Heather what the protocol was.
You have to
No,
go.
I asked Heather, what is the protocol if I have a procedural question? Not a commission question about the sewers, but a procedural question. And she told me there is a big distinction between that, Carl. She said, if you're asking, should the sewer commission do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to make an address up, 9099 Electric Avenue. Should the sewer commission, she said, that is a policy of the sewer commission, and that should come from the sewer commission. But if an individual has a procedural question, what are the rights of a commission member? What are the limits of authority of the chair? She said, that's a different category. And you don't go to council, you go to her, and she decides if the question is appropriate or not. We don't decide. She decides. She talks with you, and she makes a decision as to whether she feels the question should go to council. And you'll see the questions that I had asked Heather that she decided to send to council. Adam's initial statement said, you made these requests of Heather, and she decided they were worthwhile for me to address. And I have no problem with that going forward. I think that we should all be able to go to Heather with procedural questions. I think sewer policy questions should be discussed as a group, should be voted on, and we should do what the majority wants to do. But looking for clarification on our roles, looking for clarification on our legal behavior is not the same thing as sewer policy.
And likewise, Mr. Chairman, Heather was consulted about my questions and gave authorization to council to ask the question.
Yeah, I don't mean to imply, I know you both went through Heather, which even the commission has to go through Heather, if it's not an open, office hours. So everything, Heather is the gatekeeper. The only question is, and we might want to be clear, and if it's as simple as saying procedural versus policy, and that fits 90% of the cases, then great. But it is something that has been brought up as an issue before of an individual member going to council without the sewer commission authorizing it.
On policy, I would say an individual...
Just as a general...
No, there is no general, because there's two distinctly different things. On policy, I don't feel you're right, because it's just telling us our legal limits. I'm
right? I'm wrong again?
No. I'm wrong this side. On procedure, on legal procedure, we should go and ask the questions, because those have nothing to do with sewers.
I'm not against asking questions. I just want to understand the commission's position on if and when the commissioner has to involve the commission before going to council.
No,
If it is a sewer policy, if it has something to do with the sewer policy.
I disagree. I think you can go to council. They're open office hours.
No, not open.
Oh,
No.
Where this is a special,
Yeah.
let's consider it a special charge. We're running up the town's
Then
bill.
yeah. We don't want to do that.
Don't want to do what?
We don't want to go to the... Sorry.
I think, I don't want to say, but I think this is something we're going to have further discussion with when we talk about our communication.
That's fine.
I agree.
Good. It's going to be a long workshop. Bob's going to bring pizza for
Do we
everybody.
have any resolution in the meantime?
You're the only paid member, Bob. Yeah.
Is there any consensus on policy
In
versus...
the meantime, I wouldn't even change anything.
Okay.
I think that if you're going to ask policy questions to council and it's outside the hours, you got to go through Heather. Heather will decide if it's appropriate to send to council. If you sign up for office hours to council and you want to bring up policy questions, you're more than welcome to. You can bring it here as an opinion or as an interpretation, but you can't say council said this and that's the letter of the law until we all decide to go and ask council outside to make sure that what you said is correct.
Mr. Chair, could I clarify, because maybe
How
I
much
heard, maybe I heard the wrong word. No, maybe I heard the wrong word. Maybe you, I quite often use the opposite word.
Sure.
Because I thought you said it's okay as long as you go through Heather to ask policy questions.
I think if you have...
Procedure.
No, you said policy.
I just said in general, I think. I don't think
Yeah,
I
in
said
general, I don't think you differentiated.
I didn't.
Which is different than the rest of the discussion, so the point.
But as of right now, yeah, I mean,
What's
we don't have a written down anything, so until we do...
But can we come to an agreement that until we get together for this workshop and determine what our policy is going to be, that if someone wants to speak to council, that, seek Heather's advice first?
Right.
Just-
Whether it's
Well,
policy...
In the short,
We have to do
this is just a short term.
You can't get to council without going through Heather. That's
Yeah.
you can't get there.
All right.
The question is, and what I would be more comfortable with, just because we need discussion, thank you, John, is that we simply say that we won't, outside of office hours, commissioners won't go seek legal counsel without discussing it in the commission.
I cannot agree to that
Okay.
for procedure.
Procedure,
For sewer policy, I am with you 100%.
Wait, all the way around.
But sewer policy, 999 Electric Avenue, or grease
Right.
trap policy,
I know,
we
I
are
think we
not
switched it.
going to Heather
Right.
without the commission
Well,
approval.
I
But otherwise, what you're doing is you're saying you can't even find out your own legal rights as a commissioner. And I disagree. I think we should be able to find out our legal rights as a commissioner.
I agree with that. The other comment that Mr. Chairman would be that the council doesn't make policy for us.
No.
Council gives us advice.
Yeah.
We make policy.
Right.
So we want to make sure that when we operate and we're making policy that we're operating within inside the law. But we shouldn't be relying on council to make policy for us. We are the body that makes policy
For the sewers.
for the sewer commission.
But there
Yeah.
are policies to govern our behavior.
Well, we don't have any authority outside of sewer, so.
All right, so
I mean, we can try to grab it, but.
I don't want to...
So are we agreeing that if a commissioner has concerns about what their legal rights are as a commissioner, then yes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Go and
go
talk to
through
town
Heather.
council.
Go through Heather and talk to town council, yes. Policy questions.
We do as a
We
group.
talk about it here.
And then we send a group letter.
Oh, during office
If
hours.
we can't agree, then yeah, we send that, and hopefully we can agree one day. Okay, so, that was just opening up the subject. We have bullet points underneath it. So 2 members go to a meeting and have different opinions of council's input. Kind of talked about it a little bit. Another one of those things where you can bring it here and talk about it, and we'll probably decide to just send out a letter to council to clarify the
Right.
2 different members' opinions. I think we talked, everybody clear on that, right? There are no
These were
minutes.
not bullets on the agenda.
Oh, this is just my thing?
Yeah, it's just...
Oh, then
Yeah,
never mind.
we finished all the bullets on the
Oh, these
agenda.
are my secret notes.
Points made.
You're done, you're done, you're over
I didn't
here.
get to this one. Yeah,
Barb
just kidding.
squirming over here.
No, it's all what we were
She leaves little like inspirational things. Like little quotes.
Joe.
Keep on keeping on.
Yeah, they used to get me.
You could probably say you're down around here.
Yeah, I'm right around there. According to me, I have 5 more bullet points. That's right, I'm looking at the
No, those
working
are just
agenda. All right.
points from the 10th when we tabled the discussion.
Yes, right, we did. Okay, so
Can I
my reminder.
ask one more town attorney question?
Yep.
It's actually, I also have it down under invoices. I was billed directly from Mead Tellerman for service. And when I questioned it to Heather, she said, and I think I put it in the package, she said that was what she thought we were directing them to do. And I'm like, I don't remember
For
any
what?
direction that we were going to not take advantage of open attorney hours and just be on the retainer. I got a bill for $184.14,
Yeah, can we see it?
10/8.
It's probably in the package, but I mean,
But Heather's comment was, I was under the impression commission had asked for this to be separated out from the retainer based on the proportion of hours spent on town matters and sewer commission acting as an enterprise. Do you want to address this at the next meeting? So
There you go.
therefore, we're doing it. But this is the bill.
It's $118. What does it say on his invoice? Research General LLC 40 SS 5758 at annual town meeting articles 28-29 as they relate to sewer commission authority to lien property and/or deny, revoke, or suspend licenses, permits. Email to Bob with synopsis or summary of process per said statutes. So this is about what we can and can't do.
When people don't pay their
For,
taxes.
yeah, just, yeah. we were-
Well, I thought, Carl, that was the question that was asked during business hours, that you asked during business hours.
It may have been asked more than once, but if I could, Mr. Chairman, just step back and because this, if this is not right, we should not be being billed separately. They're on retainer.
No, I don't think we should
Right?
either.
So I don't think we should. However, I would like to provide some background as to where maybe, again, I'm at fault here for asking a question and maybe confusing this, but it is an issue that we've got to deal with soon with the budgeting process. What I asked council was, I said, I express, and I think I have in meetings, many times I've expressed concern that the sewer enterprise fund has to fund all of the costs related to sewer. That has to be funded by the users. It should not be borne by the town. The current arrangement with legal, where there is a retainer and everybody just uses it, is contrary to that concept. So essentially, the town, through that retainer, is funding whatever legal we use. And going forward, not this year, and I try to make this clear when I had this discussion with legal, just that this is a concern of mine. We're going to be going into budgeting, and we need to understand. We really need to be able to account for our costs. And is there a mechanism for doing that? And he said, oh yeah, we keep track of everybody we talk to, and we can, there's lots of ways we can do it. We can address it. And I said, great. When we get into budgeting, we'll talk about it, because we can't have the taxpayers of Lunenburg paying for sewer costs. So we got to figure out how to deal with this in our next budget. And maybe that confused them and what Jen.
This is specific to the...
But it doesn't matter. Everything that council does is covered under the retainer, including going to court up to some limit.
So you said Heather separated this, she thought we wanted to separate.
Yeah, I received the bill, so I asked her about it. But I just wanted to point out, we also pay we have that general funds transfer. There's a lot of costs. Munis, accountant's office, payroll, all that is a part of the cost. So as long as Heather and Karen are considering legal in that, before they tell us what our amount is due, then it is covered.
Yeah,
That's right.
That's one of the potential approaches next year, is to have an allocation. Another potential approach is literally what you see on the table here, is that we simply pay directly as we use it. We can debate which direction to go, but there are many directions we can go. My only concern is that we need to make sure that the legal costs end up in being paid by the enterprise fund, and not by the taxpayers of Lunenburg in general.
Well, as a non-sewer user and taxpayer, I appreciate that.
Me too.
So his invoice.
I'm trying to...
Yeah, let's see if...
It's not what we want.
Yeah, since we're probably going to end up taking...
The only thing I'd just like to make one comment on that discussion, and that is that, I don't have any kids in the Lunenburg Public Schools. I don't. I'm retired, my kids are grown, everybody's
You don't have to
gone.
explain, you don't
But
have
I
to.
still pay taxes for the school.
Move to a town with no schools.
What? Joe, it's difficult for me to make my point when you're doing that.
Sorry.
And so even if a small amount of taxpayer money goes to payroll or lawyer, I don't think we're
Yeah,
violating.
we're not even
You
near what the
understand-
school...
You understand
Oh, yeah.
the point I'm making?
Yeah, the school's obviously your taxes. That's where
Taxpayers
your taxes
do stuff that's good for the town in general.
Yeah, we need taxes, that's for sure.
Well, I think the difference is the sewer is set up as an enterprise
Yes.
fund,
Right.
so.
I know.
It's supposed to be self-funding.
Right. Okay. DPW systems update.
Barbara, you have that We just received today a report from SWSS on questions that I think you all asked, or at least you, Joan, asked. I wasn't at that meeting.
Well, Carl brought up the topic, but I had the details.
Okay,
About the parks and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
we just got this at about 2 o'clock today, so Bob was kind enough to make,
Here.
It's almost like they knew we had a meeting today. Amazing.
We
We asked that they extend themselves to the point to get it for you.
What else do you want?
There we go. Thank you. Here, I'll give you that.
Mr. Chairman, I think one of the things we should talk about going forward is how do we work with our suppliers to get this information sooner than at the meeting? And I think I would like to defer discussion on this until we've actually had time to read it and digest it.
So that's two things. Addressing the first one, I think you're kind of at the mercy of the suppliers when you're asking information, so I don't know, we can ask for it faster and things like that and make them aware, but...
Yeah. No, then you will see from, I think there may be a long thing, or maybe not, but it's not that I just asked yesterday and got it today, or I've been asking for...
No, I think they understand.
Yeah.
Joe, if you want to continue on them.
I mean, we're at the mercy of the supplier. We can ask and call, but I mean, we can say we need it this day, but at the end of the day, they're going to send it to you when they send it to you.
Yeah, but we should at least ask. We should at least inform them which day we want it.
We do,
Yeah.
constantly.
And when we have our quarterly
In a
meetings with them...
perfect world, that would work, Carl, but sometimes you get things last minute. So I would like to second your idea that we table this till we've had a chance to look at it.
Oh, I can second.
And
You can try.
you can't second, can you second that? And we just look at, put it on the agenda for next time. So we do have time to look at it,
Right.
because it's difficult when you're handed it at a meeting.
I could not agree
We can
more.
bring it up with the quarterly.
I mean,
Well, I mean, we've done an opportunity to compare.
I want to
what they've
compare
given
it to
us
the June
No, yeah, we can't
27th
talk about
plan that they produced, which is what I was quoting from before. I want to compare the two documents and see how they...
Do our due diligence.
Yes.
Yeah. And also keep in mind that when we went to the, and I know you will, when we went to the monthly meetings, I remember having that discussion here, we said, we'll sort of try it instead of, and then see what the commission would like to have additionally in the reports. I know there was additional information in this one based on a meeting you had with them, but another portion, another component of that conversation could be, are you happy with what you're getting on a monthly basis? I remember suggesting to you, why don't we do it for a month or two and see what you think, as opposed to them or me trying to guess, and then if you want to add or delete, we can do that.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we want an opportunity to compare this to the June 27th document. We also, you're asking us to tell you how happy we are with the information we're giving. Do we need more
Or not.
information or
Right.
less information or not? Okay,
Right.
got it. We'll do that. That's wonderful.
So when's our next meeting?
December 5th.
So that's quite a ways away. The parks list on here, we've been asking for this a lot, at least the pumps, for quite some time. So we have here is a list of recommended spare parts for the town of Lunenburg sewer system to have on hand. These prices do not include shipping charges and are valid for 30 days from the date of this letter. So these will be okay for the next meeting. These prices stay as they are. But do we want to, I know we haven't had really a chance to digest, but I don't think there's anything to compare here. Do we want to go ahead and look at these prices at least to see if we want to get these things on order?
That's a good idea. Let me just...
Because I know we've been asking about spare pumps and spare parts, and I just don't, not that it probably would happen, but God forbid from now until December 5th the pump goes and we didn't order one. And we have long lead time items on some of these, like this pump stuff, they're pretty long lead times. That's why we wanted them on spare parts. So I think we should at least, I think we'd be doing ourselves a favor by looking at this at least, maybe not all of them, but I know that these...
I will say,
long lead
Mr.
times.
Chairman, that if you go out on your own, you will find cheaper prices. Because I was able to do it the last time we did this exercise.
So you have the same brand and everything?
Yeah, but they have relationships with certain vendors, and I'll just say that for the record, that if you were to go out there and do an internet search,
I can do that right now.
you can find some of this for less. That was my experience.
Do you think you might find some of it for more as well, or do you think it's a one-sided?
Do we want to?
Yeah, you can find it more. Yeah, sure. You can.
So I'm thinking, maybe it's wash.
Right, I just don't know how much, and to that point is, I don't know how much effort you want to put into looking at each individual, and because they do have relationships and they do, work with certain vendors. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, I read every word here. Maybe Jack can help. I don't know that Small Water is proposing to go purchase all these things for us, or if they're just telling us, here's a list of things, and here's what they cost. I mean, why wouldn't we go purchase these directly?
Is that day to day? I don't know.
And then we can identify what the lowest cost is and what the...
Except I'm looking at the June 27th document and my notes that I took on that from that meeting we had this summer with Small Water. And at the time, they said that there was no backup parts for several of the pumps and that they would not be able to get them readily if the part broke. So we would be down and out waiting. And at that meeting, we discussed buying those parts ahead of time and keeping them on stock so that they know they're going to go. They know they have a life expectancy. So we're not waiting to buy them until we
I
break down.
understand all that.
Well, and
who purchases them? I'm saying if Small Water doesn't have to purchase them,
Right.
the town can purchase them, and the town can go look
Jack,
at
what do you
prices.
think about
Well, I
that?
think that any cost savings that was so small that if you compare that to the time spent, that it wouldn't be worth. I mean, it was $100 out of $1,000 maybe.
But I would like to hear what our day-to-day operator...
Which particular question, Joe? Buying them ourselves?
Buying them ourselves.
I think, number one, that goes to a relationship with the vendor.
Yes.
I know there was a discussion in contract 1 and then in their second contract about markup, and they supply the invoices so there's no markup, which is, I think is good for us. I don't know anybody else that does that, although I'm sure there are people that do that. If we're looking at purchasing themselves, I'd go to Troy's point that they know who to call, what to do. It's just running around making calls. I think that's why you have a relationship with the vendor. But if I may, I think beyond this, and it may be an agenda topic as we get into the budget perhaps, but since we're so active, it may not be right now. But I know it was brought up, and I don't know if you brought it up, Joan, or it's gotten lost here, is that we have to look at, as with our buildings now that are a hot topic, we're going to survey the buildings. I think we have to look at these 10 pump stations, and instead of just coming out, now they may very well, I haven't had a chance to talk to my person, he's going to come in tomorrow, and I'll ask him this, are these replaced regularly? I'd say not, because some of them are large pumps. Are these pumps, is the replacement of these pumps imminent?
Yeah, what's the life expectancy of our
What I think we have to do is, and I do think it's worth the money, we go to each station and we say, okay, these are the pumps. This pump was built in 19 whatever, 20 whatever. The expected life is X amount of years. The anticipated purchase price is, and now we have to be aware that if it's 3 years out, it's speculation. And then we know what we should purchase.
I agree.
So we say these are on borrowed time. I mean, things like seals and relays and things like that, the small dollar items, cables, sensors, that kind of things, I think we're long overdue for having a stockpile of those.
Yes.
But for the big money items, the pumps themselves, does this mean that the 7.5 horsepower submersible pump, 200 volts, is that in danger of leaving us? I'd like to know that. And that makes your decision easy, because, well, if that's on its last legs, well, we better have one.
So how do we go about
Well, I think it's a discussion for,
Well, I have a
you.
suggestion.
or for me to do.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I have a suggestion, it's just my opinion, and I don't know how you feel about this, or anyone else. Would you be willing to look at this list and tell us what you think we should have on hand? What seals, small stuff, and stuff you think we should buy to have on hand?
Well,
Recommendation.
I'll have a much better idea of the answer to that exact
After you talk to
question
him tomorrow.
when I speak to him tomorrow. And I'll remind you that there's a document in here somewhere that was done, I believe, by Weston and Sampson, where they surveyed all the stations. That document's got to be, I'm guessing, at least 10 years old. I could be wrong in either direction.
Okay, so you're willing to ask
Yeah,
small
well,
water about the small stuff? How many
I want to know
seals?
what's imminent.
Right,
What's
imminent.
imminent, and what we can stock, and they can use our garage for stocking, and what we should have on hand. Bad example, but you have a lawnmower, maybe you should have an extra spark plug, maybe you should have an extra set of blades. We have nothing.
And you're right, I was the one who said we needed a capital down the road future plan, and
Yeah.
I was the one who asked for the life expectancy of the pumps when we did the budget last
I
time.
mean, we do that, I do it with vehicles, we're going to do it now because of the building reuse. Otherwise, you're just, in the capital plan, you're just be reactionary. Well, I think this is going to do, you need to step back, and it may be an expense at first, but then you have a document with which to work going forward, at least for the next few
And
years.
you've been doing this a while. What is your advice on how we should proceed to do that?
I'd go to the, I would look at the previous document, see what was involved with that, not read it word for word, and then ask this vendor and the other vendor, just a conversation, something, and then put
Is it
together
like,
what we
is
would
it
like.
similar to like a, is it similar to like a reserve study or a,
Well, we're going through it exactly
you
right now.
call
We
it,
have
do you
two
know?
proposals. We call it, in the building, it's a building survey.
building survey? So this would be a pump
Okay, so this is a pump
survey.
station survey. And what happens in the building survey, if this is a good enough example, is they start right on the outside. They look at the roof, they look at the windows, they look at the siding, everything there, gutters perhaps, the doors, and all those would be reasonable things on the pump stations as well, at least some of the bigger ones. And then they go inside and they look at the HVAC. Other items, well, geez, this thing was installed here 25 years ago. It's likely past its useful life. They use an industry standard, and they use an industry standard for replacement value.
So,
It's good information to have.
so we can come in here, Barb, and you'll show us where that last report was, and we can look at it if we
Yeah,
want?
yeah.
Is everyone okay with commissioners coming in to look at the last report?
Sure.
If you choose.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they'll give you, not that everybody's not interested, but you seem to have a piqued interest on that, and I know it's right over my shoulder, but I don't want to take the time to look through it.
Well, that's all public record, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can get it.
but just to give you an idea of what's involved in what's measured.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them with the
So you'll have
concept.
more information tomorrow, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, and this, yes, yeah.
I mean, what went into SWS's process to come up with this list of parts? I mean, they've been working with the pumps for
Well, that,
several years now.
I think that's a good question, and that's a question that needs to be asked. It's a question I want to know. I mean, we just don't put a line down the bottom here, do a quick total and say, okay, here's 755, to whatever,
Good question.
$30,000. Okay, go get it. But then again, maybe this is what, maybe
Right.
these
Do
are
they- do
imminent
they know that the
failures.
7.5 horsepower pumps on his last?
Well,
Yeah, we
that's-
should probably get that information.
That's what I'm going to get tomorrow.
Right.
Good. And if you're going to get that tomorrow, since we're going to put this on our, I think we're putting it on our next meeting agenda, can you get it out to us so we can look at it in conjunction with this? Or is that not?
I will. As Joe touched on, if they want to take this back, if he can give me the answers tomorrow, I'll certainly have it, and I'll give it to you in a more timely manner. We do run into trouble with all our vendors, and maybe a little more so with small water, if that's not fair to say, getting things in a timely manner. So, yes, to the long answer to a short question, yeah, I'll get it out so you can...
Thank you.
Like, this is difficult.
Right, so we can then look at this one from June 27th and
Yeah.
this one from tonight and the information you give us, and then if you want, come in and look at the, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Weston and Sampson DEP report.
Yep, I have on my desk two separate, in fact, I'll get them. Excuse me, just take a second. Grab the pen that works.
Oh, your favorite pen's not working, Troy?
it's not.
He's saying two separate, but I don't know if he's talking about the DEP report, so you might want to clarify, because you might be thinking tasks.
No, that's next anyway.
Right. I'm just saying, I don't...
I think we'll just send you these electronically.
Okay.
Keep them.
One is this is task 1 and task 2, you remember, manhole rehabilitation.
Is that part of this, the DEP report?
Well, okay, DEP report,
We have
I'm
them
sorry.
We just have them as separate items.
Just so Weston and Sampson.
Yeah, that's
okay. Weston and Sampson, DEP report. I spoke to Pat today. They're working on it. He says, I'll tell you what he told me. He said we should be finished with it this week.
Okay.
Barb asked him to try and get it for tonight. He said he couldn't. He called him up today just to get the last minute. So I could tell you folks.
This week.
So this week. They are extremely confident, have no issue with getting it to you or meeting the deadline, which I know is crucial.
Okay. All right, now you can go into the test.
So will we get it as soon as you do, Jack? So we
Yeah.
can look at it before the meeting?
Yeah, I mean, if he said, not even before a meeting, I mean, I know this is a significant step for us. It's a mandate. I don't see any reason why, when we get it, you shouldn't get it.
Great. All right, now we can go into the task 1 and 2
Yeah, these are,
novels you have here.
yep, I'm going to send you another big documents, a lot of it's boilerplate, so I really don't think I should go page for page on this.
No.
Let me send it to you electronically, you just got the second one today,
Everybody okay with that? And
Yep.
we'll all take a look at it.
okay?
Unless you guys want Jack to read it, he said he would. Maybe next time, Jack.
Well, I think to Carl's points and what he gave us, we can compare. I mean, there's some
Right.
valid
Oh, yeah.
points in
Yeah, it would-
this.
yeah.
that-
Right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
And give you a
information.
chance to digest it,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
maybe this touches on your earlier discussion. Put together your, not for me to suggest, but just as an example, put together your specific concerns in question form, bring them to a meeting, banter them back and forth, and maybe you come up with a reasonable list that I could pass forward to him on these. We've discussed these, we've signed contracts on these. The trouble I find, and I mentioned to it today, is there's such a time lapse sometime between, you know, these meetings here, and maybe I'm just too old to remember things clearly, but, you know, this was weeks ago, and so much happens here during the day, and you know, I almost need a refresher on it. So let's, without getting into a discussion on it, let me get these to you as early as tomorrow,
Great.
and you can peruse them at your convenience.
So, Mr. Chair, just one question,
Oh, what?
so we could, did the two bits of information in there, Jack, the identification of the manholes and the expected I&I reduction? Are they in?
Yes,
Thanks.
yes.
Great.
And I have
I
a,
love it, thanks.
and there was a manhole here, manhole, there was an email here too, that I'm going to, yeah, the manhole, I keep them in my pocket. That actually answered those questions that you asked that he did not respond to. So he sent me the email, and I will send that to you as a group.
Thank you.
Okay, it gets us sort of started without beating it to death. So you should have some very exciting reading for the weekend, and much to discuss.
Love it.
Maybe part of this too, as you know, has to go through procurement. And procurement, even for me and for everyone else, changed in 2016. And I find it even more cumbersome than it was before, the governor felt that if he raised the ceilings of the dollar limits of what was required, that would help us out here. In the municipal world, it does quite the opposite. So these will go to Heather and put them on our letterhead, and then we have to solicit bids on top of that, so it's a very cumbersome process. The good news is, it's kind of late in the season to do this, so we get all the paperwork out of the way, all the combis regulations, the central register regulations, the soliciting 3 bids, we'll be able to bust out, we'll keep that in our pocket, and we'll be able to bust out here in the spring.
Just, Mr. Chairman, through you, just for education, I thought, it sounded like you just said that because I know the dollar limit's going up, but you said that actually the work got worse, so did more requirements get put on lower dollar limits? Is that, how did it end up being worse?
For me, that's a personal statement. For me, it was there was a certain limit at which you had to go out to bid on a sealed bid,
right,
put it in the central register. It's about a 6-week process on the short end.
right.
Now, unless you're under 10,000, everything over 10,000, you have to solicit the 3 bids, which you always did. You have to put it into the central register, which on the short end is 2 weeks, usually 3 if you missed the date. And then you have to put it into this combis, which was formerly known as OSD. I have talked to everybody right up to the Inspector General and the Attorney General, Jennifer Benson, the purchasing agent in Leominster, who's a personal friend, and that's all he does is bid and do things, and it's totally convoluted, this combis. Even Heather, who's the Chief Procurement Officer. So there's a difficulty there, yet it is the rules, and once you know the rules, I can't just bury my head anymore.
Really, what OSD purchasing? Why are you looking at me like that for?
State bid, now it's called combis.
I know, we have the fence, so we have a CPSR, purchasing systems.
Yeah, one-person job, yeah, and actually the software for combis was a European software, and it doesn't, this...
All right. Millet extension requests. I see on my...
Millet?
Sorry. I see on my cheat sheet here, in parentheses, Barb, you have some verbiage there.
How did we get there?
It's on the it's on the agenda.
Oh, but we didn't talk about task 2.
That's 1 and 2, and
Okay, he's
gonna email it all.
And then we're gonna talk about it next time.
Yeah.
I missed that. You have something on task 2?
Yes.
Yeah, he's gonna send it all.
He's going to send it all out, and then we're going to have time to digest it and compare it to your document and talk about it next
Like I said,
time.
Millet
Yeah.
extension request. Barb, is that really?
Yeah, this is under DPW just because Carl did request or had a question about how the paving moratorium may affect it, but Jack, so I had waited on Jack's response to make sure that that was not an issue.
Not an issue?
Well, it shouldn't be an issue, naturally, based on the moratorium that the selectmen just voted upon, fees and every repair methods. It is certainly an issue, but it should not be an issue for the sewer commission.
Perfect.
It should be, the issue for the sewer commission, as clearly stated in the charter, is the expansion of sewers. You have to decide whether you're going to allow him to expand the sewer from his property, point A, to wherever he brings back that, at the very least, conceptual engineering plan to get into Cross Street Road, whatever it is over there. The pavement moratorium is secondary in this case. In this case, it would be likely we would allow him to do it, but after the permitting fee, there's probably a more extreme repair method that he may or may not want to do, but don't let that influence your expansion questions.
That's not our decision.
So, Mr. Chairman, just the background, I absolutely agree with Jack. That is not, the road opening is not our issue. The reason it came up was that it occurred to me after our meeting, because the applicants were here and they were looking for information, right? And so we tried to give them information. As I suggested that Barb make them aware of this moratorium so that they knew all of the things they were going to run into. because it could be a costly thing, as Jack says. They're going to open a lot of road. It ain't just, the pipe's not in front of their house. They got to run down the street quite a ways. So it could be, they should be aware of it. They should go in with their eyes open so they understand all of the things that they should be addressing. So it wasn't so much a sewer commission as helping them know the scope that they should be looking at.
And I sat with them for at least an hour
Good.
with their initial foray
Right, great.
into this. So I think you're right, they should understand all the issues. Pavement being, could be potentially expensive one, but they seem to have a handle on it when I
Good.
spoke to them, and maybe even a better handle after they spoke to you.
Great, thanks, Jack.
All right. That's it for DPW systems updates. 380 Electric Ave car wash status.
I reviewed the document Barb sent out this afternoon from the attorney. It seems that he has more to write and will be getting back to us soon, if I understand everything
Right.
correctly.
Yep.
But one of the things I did notice in there is he seemed to say that I believe the commission is authorized to act, but our research is not yet completed.
Authorized versus selectmen.
Right, that's what I was pointing out. Okay, so
Yeah, I
next
don't know.
time, he'll bring us more
Yeah, I would
documentation.
say, and if everyone agrees, we'll wait for all the information.
Yeah.
Right.
No, let's talk about
Let's just do it now. Let's just assume what he's gonna say, Why add it to another one? Billing outsourcing status.
It's in process.
Yeah, you guys are kind of going back and forth doing a whole bunch of stuff.
Having some good, with learning stuff, I don't know where it's going to end up, but Heather and...
Thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you.
Heather and
Just trying to
Steve,
sneak out here.
Yeah, no worries. Have a good Thanksgiving, Jack.
Heather and Steve participated in a discussion with Barb and I. Did? When I don't know.
We'll keep going.
God,
All right.
Seems like a lot of stuff. And gave us some good suggestion. We're now going to go talk to Barb's in the process of setting something up the week after next with Mylene, what's her?
Treasurer.
Treasurer, and Karen, finance,
Brochure.
to pull them into the discussion.
Great.
And then, as a result of that, hopefully we can define to Northern Data what we would like them to give us some scope of work.
I like how it's going so far. I like the open communication and the updates and all that good stuff, so
Can I
keep plugging away.
be included in the meeting, or at least get notice of the meeting that you're going to have with Karen and...
Yep.
Yeah, because I think before we were sending it out to everybody, any meetings about the building outsourcing, and we were deciding who would want to go, so just kind of leave it open for everybody, and if there is going to be a quorum, we'll do what we have to do.
Yeah.
At least set it up so everyone, just in case they want to join in.
Great.
Yep, yeah.
Okay. Grease trap regulation compliance. Now I'm looking at the real agenda to make sure I don't read anything I'm not supposed to read here.
I'm looking at the...
Crossroads.
I'm looking at the letter on Crossroads from Adam today.
Mhm. And? Carry
He's
on.
not done either, I don't think, with this. Am I correct, Barb? I am confirming our conversation of yesterday, and furthermore, my email below and others follows. The commission may pursue a municipal charge lien, yada, yada. But he's
We couldn't do...
he's asking us to wait, isn't he?
He confirmed that we were good on 4058, which is
Yep.
the leaning.
Right.
But he's asking, we have to see if the charges qualify for the Section 57, which is putting it on the tax rolls.
Right.
And I wasn't certain, I was thinking that most of our fees were not, so he was checking into that. He's also going to look at our sewer use regulations and see if there's, if that's the other way. Because if we don't revoke a permit that way, we can revoke it through our regulations.
So as of right now, we should probably wait on that too.
Okay, makes sense.
When you say wait, are you talking about...
Put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Right, well, and just as a matter of... when you say status on the agenda, that we can't vote on something that says status. So...
We should take the word status.
So if you want to be able to act on something, that's why I'm confused when you say, well, wait, but And if there's going to be a hearing, they have to have notice of the hearing.
Yeah, we're
14
not-
days.
Right,
Right.
and that hearing would be actually orchestrated through the treasurer's process, normal
Okay,
process.
I just wanted to
So
clarify.
we are not having a
Necessarily.
hearing on December 5th.
No.
We are
He did not want
postponing
to
that.
do
We
a
are
draft.
removing the word status so that
Yeah, I didn't
we're going to
realize
take that out.
No, the word status was on the billing outsourcing.
Right.
We should probably take that. We should just pick billing outsourcing. Update.
I mean, for this agenda, it was just a status. We weren't going to be
Right.
voting on anything. That's why it's in there.
Right.
That's
But
why
but
it's
what we're
clarified.
talking about on this agenda is fine. It's
No, I-
revocation of permit. I mean, it can't be much clearer than that. You could vote on that, right, Troy?
No, not a
Not if
status.
it's a
No.
It
status.
doesn't say
It
status.
says on the
Doesn't say
next
status.
line.
What
On
is
the
it?
next line,
On the next
report.
line, it
First
continues
Tuesday
on.
report
First Tuesday
status.
First Tuesday
status.
report status. There's a period
Oh.
after,
Yeah, we're
there's a
doing
period
a
after.
different
It's a comma.
There's a comma there.
Yeah,
Got it.
different thing.
Punctuation.
I would say a comma.
But I didn't know that. I did
I
not know
didn't
that
know.
about status, that you couldn't vote, so that's
I didn't either.
good information.
I didn't either, and I'm gonna look at. I want to confirm that.
Yeah, you can.
I
yeah,
agree with Troy.
please.
If you're going to vote, especially something that's going to affect somebody, the agenda needs to be pretty clear so that they know,
Right.
they have good reason to believe.
So are we
they're gonna go to
putting,
the meeting.
are we putting Crossroads on the next agenda?
Yep.
And will the attorney hopefully have more information for us by then?
Let's hope so.
Should by
Or,
December 5th.
yes,
Yeah, so
or
quite a
we
ways
will
away.
also have, I'm pretty sure that we would have the collector's information as well.
Right.
Just on that point, though, because it's a little confusing, because when we had this discussion, and I think, Troy, was the day you were there, maybe not, about the ability to do this and what the process would be. You know, with the process he gave us, the first step was that we were notified by the tax,
Mhm.
that it was on the list, right? That it was on a list. And at that point, we had a discussion saying, well, they have no way of knowing it, so is really the first step, we have to tell them to put it on the list. And he said, yeah, but they can generate a list any day of the week. You tell them, they put it on the list, and it's on the list. That's what he told us at that time.
Yeah.
He may be,
I remember you asking that.
he may be
Yeah.
thinking differently now, but that's where we were. So that's why I thought that
Right.
it was okay to call a hearing, because we say, okay, put it on the list, give us the new list, oh, okay, there it is.
Yeah, it has to be something, he broached it yesterday, just that different towns are different,
Mhm.
and in Lunenburg, I'm not aware of it being generated any more than that once a year, Vittler's, everything is on that one list. I don't believe Mylene produces a list any other time of year.
No, and I see why not, but at that time, anyway, Adam
Yeah.
felt that they can create a list any day. You know, it's not just once a year. If there's a reason to update the list, they can update and publish
Yeah.
it, but...
So I just want to make sure this doesn't fall through the cracks.
Yeah, it'll be on the next one.
So, but I want to, I would hope that we could all agree that Barb will send another inquiry to the attorney if he doesn't get back to her when we start getting a week or two away from December 5th on this.
Right.
Right? Okay. Okay.
3 weeks away.
Good. First Tuesday report?
Everyone but one, and it is the new...
Dragonfly Cafe.
Yeah. I sent an email today. I hadn't, a lot of times I give people a heads up immediately upon the first Tuesday, and I just haven't because I've been focused on other things.
Okay, so you sent a reminder.
I did, and I'm pretty sure she's been very attentive and very quick, but I haven't heard from her today. Says status, so can we not vote to do anything?
That's my understanding. I wouldn't run these together, for one thing.
Well, it's brevity. We're
What
trying
would
to
be,
just keep our,
Yeah,
keep
keep it to one page.
What are you voting on?
And this way, what
What would we be voting on?
well, like, if I haven't received something by the end of the week, I could send out the standard, you're late, and...
Absolutely, and you don't need us
We
to
don't
vote
need to
on it.
vote on it.
That's a policy that's already in the books, and you should feel free to
Okay.
just do it.
Okay.
I agree. I don't know if it's already on the books, but,
I think it is.
okay. We'll go with that.
All right. Q2 commitment.
in the minutes.
Commitment, we have looked off on our bills. And they just tell us commitment, 2 pages of
That's it?
signatures. No, for signatures. value of $209,239.10 for Q2 FY18. So make sure you do two signatures on there.
Minutes, I had a comment.
Oh, yeah, minutes.
Hey, two pages.
Two pages. I know, I was going to try to get away with it. Oh, look at this, one. Number 2 on this one.
Number 2 on the page, number 1 in our hearts, man.
Attorneys that go to closings, they don't have signatures anymore, they just have marks.
Yeah. I mean, just signing all day, I can't imagine it's not very fun. I have a bunch of scribbles because I used to have to sign every times. I don't have to do any more than that. But now it's just easier. So that's, we'll wait for it to go all the way around, but that's the Q2 commitment. I'll move right along here.
That's right.
Greetings in the name of the Commonwealth. How'd you get my middle name?
Internet. I think you told me.
Minutes, invoices, action file issues.
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment on the minutes, and on the minutes in the current business, it says
Under which one?
under
There's a 10:10.
the very first.
Are we on 10:31?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have 2 minutes up for review.
Oh, I don't
Are you on 10:31 or 10:10?
10:31, but I can wait.
Well, you can bring it up. I mean,
It's just that it says that I said at a future meeting, and what I wanted to clarify is that it was later in the same meeting. In the very first paragraph, the second sentence, on the 10:31. It says, Carl asked to move Passios forward on the agenda to John Londa was present. Troy requested that if anyone had any comments, they could be raised at a future meeting. Instead of at a future meeting, it would be later in the same meeting.
okay. Can we amend that?
I'm sorry.
So we're on 10:31 right now?
Yes, and it's that
I
last
have a question on
sentence.
10:31 as well.
Well, let's get through the first one.
Later in the meeting?
Later in the same meeting.
So instead of they could be raised at a future meeting, it should be later in
At the same
meeting. So let's amend that. And Joan?
In the middle of this minutes for 10:31, same day, there's a motion, I made it, Troy seconded, the sewer commission will have Barb follow up to get an update from Swiss on spare parts within a week. And then it says discussion is in bold, and I guess this question is for Jane. Why is some discussion in bold and some discussion not in bold? Because it seems to apply more importance to one piece of discussion than another, and I don't think that's the case.
The whole motion's in bold.
No, Joe, below the motion
I
is...
know, in discussion is bold. If you go to another motion...
Oh, that's discussion of the motion.
Discussion is bold.
Right,
Yeah, it's bold in all the motions.
See, now I understand. That's the question I was asking. Why is that bold?
It's just a discussion involving the motion. The whole thing is bold.
I got it. I'm clear. Thank you.
No problem. All right.
And everybody is looking at the one edited
The one that you
with
sent, right?
recently,
Yeah.
with Carl's edits. There was,
Well, how can we tell what his edits are?
they're in blue, and they're underlined.
Mine did not come out underlined or blue.
Today.
This is the
Today?
one you just sent. I have no idea what his edits were. This is the last one you sent this afternoon, this morning at 10:33. And I could
I thought
not
it would
see
come
his
up.
edits.
And I
or-
wanted to send it Word so you could edit, but
Do you-
if you did review,
The one from yesterday there was no changes to the doc besides the font
Correct.
No, I'm
size.
talking about this morning,
Oh.
10:33.
Nope,
I
good.
could not do it. So can we do this one,
Actually, those are all two-sided, so if anybody else wants them.
can we table this one till next time then? Because I haven't had a
I guess-
chance to look at it.
I'm certainly okay with tabling. I guess I'm a little wondering what, if you agreed with the minutes, what the significance is of who edited what.
That's true.
I don't think it's
Except
who, I think
that
it's just
everybody
why.
wants to
It's
know
just a little
what's
more
been
difficult.
changed.
Yeah, so can we just do 10:10 tonight and do 10:31 next time?
And it would help if I sent them as PDFs to, then you
Then you
would see
see
those
the
edits.
changes,
But
yeah.
there's different,
I see the changes. In the attachment?
yeah.
It's in blue, it's underlined,
I
there's lines in
know.
it.
I'm not getting it on my
Jones didn't get
iPad.
I didn't get it.
He and John didn't get it
I didn't
either.
get it.
Did you open it?
It's in, I use Microsoft Word.
Yeah, mine doesn't have,
I don't have Microsoft Word. on that.
Oh.
So if you
I send
could,
Oh,
it
you
as
converted
PDF,
it to
you will
Word?
see.
It was Word. came
It
in
was,
Word.
I sent it as Word.
Oh.
So that people
Oh.
could see the track changes.
Then look
but-
at the Word document.
If you were.
I took the
Yeah, but
PDF,
Apple
assuming
doesn't
that
have
was what you sent today. So
I printed it from my phone.
the Word one is what you sent today.
Okay, so I'll send edited ones as PDFs so that you can see tracking.
so can we,
Note to self.
All right, let's do that.
So I'll
And
send it again to you.
Are you going to also edit that last
That's
part?
okay, I
Since
expect
we're not voting on it, can you edit the last part, the last sentence that Troy has to be amended, and then send it out as that?
Absolutely. Yep.
And track that change too. That way we'll vote on it, and we'll have to vote on an amendment.
Track and send it as PDF. Okay, that's for 10:31.
Yes.
So as far as
So we
10:10
can
is
talk
concerned.
10:10. All right, so 10 minutes.
we had the hard copy from last time. I had the changes in red that Carl so kindly provided.
Anybody have any comments on the 10:10 minutes? You want to make a motion to approve the 10:10 minutes? Anybody can do
I
it.
move that we approve the minutes for 10:10.
All right.
Bueller, second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
I'm still away.
Show that it was unanimous. Okay, and what else we got? Minutes,
Invoices. Pass over, that was just MTC, I didn't have any others, so.
Okay, and the council thing, we already talked about that one.
Right.
Action file issues.
Business manager report? Oh, action, I don't have any action files.
Okay,
so.
great. Now we'll talk about the biz manager report.
Just quickly, we've received one permit to connect on Mansfield Road.
Cool.
Reminders that on the 21st, which is next Tuesday, there's the Economic Development Workshop
Oh, yeah.
that Carl is attending.
Good job, Carl.
On the 21st.
Way to go, buddy.
That's what the last...
I've been told, I was, Troy mentioned this at the last meeting, that was count.
Was it?
Yeah, and it has been,
Oh, thank
it's
you.
going to be rescheduled, but it will not happen on the
Canceled,
21st.
Okay.
I talked to Jamie Toll, and he said,
Sorry, Carl. I know
wasn't
you're looking
canceled.
forward to that one, buddy.
I know it.
You'll catch the next one.
Okay.
I'm
And
so
then-
prepared.
And the special town meeting that is the following Tuesday after that at the new middle high school.
We don't have anything going on, though. right?
No, sewer has no...
I'm in
articles.
Colorado.
I'm in Disney.
Ooh, ooh,
When are you going?
you guys are having luck.
Colorado.
What date?
Oh, the 18th to the 28th.
Nice.
Thanksgiving and my birthday.
Oh,
Nice.
good
Well,
for
happy
you.
birthday.
Thanks.
Nice place to be.
Yeah.
And you have another note on here.
Delinquencies, that'll be my next, that is the next hot issue. This is when I go and look at all the people that have not paid their sewer bills for the last fiscal year. And
on their
a
taxes.
report is sent over to you.
So you do that, we don't do anything with that.
Nope, just so you know, that's what I will be doing.
Okay.
Barb's bringing down the hammer.
Good job, Bob. Way to be.
I just love that.
Was it
That we
Cy
finally
said they
have that.
actually can go and turn people's
Yeah.
sewers?
He said he did. When he
Yeah.
was, he actually shuts people's sewer off when they didn't pay.
Now it's
Well,
out.
We got you a nice coat so you're not too cold while you're shutting people's sewers down.
Bulletproof.
Yeah, no kidding. Member agenda inputs for future meetings. There is a...
Just one of
So-
the requests was...
Yeah, let's go with one request first, and then I got written down what we're going to talk about just based off today. So what was the request?
That
setting
we wanted to
aside
set aside
time to review
time for
policy.
at every meeting or in the future to review policies. That was...
And we sort of started to do that about a year ago, and then we stopped.
Yeah.
And I remember saying there were some things in my dog-eared copy of the rules that needed changing, and everybody even agreed on a couple of them, but we never did anything.
We thought you were going to just drive it home.
If you just want me to come in here
You
with
can
that
imagine
little,
our disappointment when it didn't happen.
bring my yardstick from when I was a teacher, huh? You know? No.
So that's more of regulations, though, is
I have a-
we're talking about,
yeah.
not policies.
Well, no, some of them were were.
Yeah, you went through like the airplane
Yeah.
a ton. I remember you did on the plane when you went
Yeah.
all the way something.
I have a suggestion that right now we're kind of full, and we also have the holidays coming up, and I would like to see us, as our New Year's resolution, set aside time after the first of the year to start looking at these things.
That's perfect, because I love breaking New Year's resolutions. It's one of the favorite things I do. I look forward to the discussion in 2018. Just
I won't let you
just kidding,
forget.
I know, I'm just kidding. All right, yes.
Because right now, we still
I
have the
agree. We have a lot going on right
communication
now, yeah.
workshop, and we
Yeah.
got that, we've
Yeah, a
tabled
lot.
Electric Avenue, we've tabled Crossroads, so
We don't have
we've
a
tabled
meeting.
Task 2, we have a lot
Next
right
meeting's in
now.
December, so yes, okay.
Okay.
Right now, Task 1 and 2, and the DEP report discussion is on the next agenda. From tonight, small water parts lists discussion should be on the next agenda. Jack's going to send us more information on that. 380 Ave car wash discussion, we're going to get some more information from legal. And Crossroads discussion as well. Once we get all the information from council, we'll have to discuss that as well. Our next action is step forward. That's what I have based on tonight. Anyone else have anything that I might have missed?
That's a lot.
I have one
Task
thing I'd like
2.
to add, which shouldn't, hopefully won't take long, but it's regarding the MMA, the Massachusetts Municipal Association. Their annual meeting is in, it's January? Sometime in January, I went to this a couple of years ago, and it's very helpful. It's in Boston, and they have presentations by different people. They have, dare I say, suppliers. I went and I found it useful and brought back some information, and I'd like to go again. So I'd like to have that on the agenda to discuss.
Okay.
Again, tonight's we can't discuss it, but I'd just like to have an agenda to
Sure,
discuss.
let's put it
Great.
on
I'll bring the pamphlets and all that stuff.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Let's do that.
And I just would like to say that I think we had a great meeting tonight, and everybody here wants to help and do the right thing,
Public comment is next, and this has to do with an agenda item.
sort of.
Okay.
But maybe I'm not, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I should wait, sort of.
Are you going to add something to an agenda?
Yes, for the special meeting
Okay.
on discussion. I just would hope that we would make an effort to find a date when everyone can come
Oh, I agree
for
with
the
that.
special meeting, because I think if we aren't all there, it's not going to be productive.
I agree.
And so that's going to require maybe looking at calendars and several options, and I will do my best to move my calendar around, as I'm sure most of you will, but I really think it's important for everyone to be there. That's my
So we're going to have another special meeting, or?
Not a special meeting, it's the workshop that we were talking about. for the
Workshop, yeah, I
communication
should call it the workshop, sorry, that's the wrong term.
Now, were we going to be inviting Heather to that
Yes.
first one?
Yes, she
And
said she
Jack.
will. And Jack. Okay. Now we can have public comments. I actually have one. I think the beginning of the meeting, I didn't know what I was really walking into. I think it went pretty good. I just wanted to say I think the communications policy hopefully goes as cordial as the beginning of today's meeting. It could have went either way. I think we should just do our best, personal emotions and feelings kind of, if we can, push them aside so we can just focus on what's best for the town. And we all have a common goal to do what's best for sewer, rate users, town, development, things like that. We all have the same goal, I think, and that's to improve and maintain and plan and do what we're set out to do. So I liked how the beginning of the meeting went. I'm hoping the next meeting, communications policy, goes pretty similar, because I think once we're all on the same page, I think we're going to be a really good force to keep going with this stuff, because we all have really good inputs and individual ideas that are always good. So that's what I just want to say.
Agreed.
And happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Same here, happy
I hope everyone has a
Thanksgiving.
good time. Anybody else have any public comment?
I'd just like to fill in that, and I think you did a very good job in helping us navigate through what could have been an uncomfortable conversation. So, well done, Joe.
Thanks. Anybody else? Good. I will take a motion to get out of here.
Motion to adjourn.
All
Second.
right.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good.